to the Redevelopment Commission April meeting. Just so you know, we will be meeting again next month and probably every month after this for a while. So we have, first thing we have on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Does anybody have any changes, corrections, adjustments to the agenda? What's that? Does that help? Under invoices, I'm going to add one other invoice that we received. It's from Jason Smelter. That we just have to add on that agenda from Baker Tilly.
Similar.
Huh? Similar? Similar? Sorry. He's watching. I apologize.
Stimler?
S-E-M-L-E.
Similar.
If there are no changes, other changes or corrections, I make a motion. I need a motion to approve the agenda as presented and adjusted.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
You got a first and second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The next thing we have on the agenda is the minutes of the last meeting. Everyone should have received a copy of those. If everyone is satisfied with those, we need a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion.
Second.
Second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. TIF district balances. Let me find my TIF district balances here. Pam sent those to me. I think she's out of town. So, Tell City, our courthouse TIF 1, $259,845.84. Wapaka TIF 2, $227,208.20. Web Wheel, which is TIF 4, $328,326.33. And I'm assuming, is it next month, Chris, the bill payoff, which would be just shy of $300,000 comes out of that account. Riverview West, $3,434.60. Tell City 1 and Tell City 2. TIF's not set up, so there's no funds coming into that. Okay. Update on the downtown apartments. Really, I'm going to use this term, nothing to report. I talked to Ron last week. He was supposed to send me his approval of financing, which I have not received. I asked him if he had filed with the city zoning building commission. He has not. I asked him if he had final plans. He does not. I asked him if he'd filed those plans, any plans with the state. He has not. So probably in the next week, Ron and I are probably going to have a little bit of a firm discussion on where he wants to go with this thing. And then at some point, and I made the comment to Ron in our conversation that we're going to have to determine or make a decision on where we're going to go. So I just wanted to report where we were, and at the next meeting we're probably going to have more to report one way or the other. We've been at this for 2 years. These things should have been standing up downtown by now. Quite disappointing, and I told Ron the same thing. It's been quite disappointing. So hopefully he has better news or some news, or at least we have at least an attempt to start. If not, again, we'll have a much deeper discussion at our next meeting next month. Is that fair? Anything you want me to relay to Ron? Anybody? Mum's the word here.
He wants out of it, doesn't he?
Is the discussion got to where Ron is willing to give up his fees that he's paid and move on?
Well, you know,
And we can
he
market
didn't
it?
say that, but he didn't say not. So we're kind of I think we're in the middle of this thing where I don't know if he wants us to force the hand or if he wants to force the hand at this point. Is how I'm reading the conversation. And it's something that we need as a commission are going to have to think about is, we have the $54,000 plus a little bit. Where do we stand with that? Because I'm not asking for thought on that at this point. I want you all to think about that.
It is in breach of contract now, correct?
Yeah, once he paid the money to purchase the property, he's supposed to have started construction. Yeah.
So
So we need to either get him
we have to have
firm commitment, firm, this is the date, or it's time to see if we can rebid this and get other suitors out there.
and I'm assuming we'd have to go back to a rebid, correct?
Yeah, but that's just, you just decide if we want to use the same specs or different ones. If we want to use the same ones, we just republish the ad in the paper. 30
So-
days later, we can accept bids.
So I'm going to, probably next week, I'll call him and let him know any discussions that we had at this meeting, and then we have to have, and I'll give him a date where we have to have it. And if we don't have it, then we'll have this back on the agenda next month and make the decision on where we're gonna go. I think we've missed a huge opportunity. I think he's cost the city, if you will, from a tax standpoint, money. He's cost us a lot of time and energy, and it's a little frustrating, quite frankly. And it's definitely a need. We definitely have a need. So, where we should have been, we're not. So I'll give you all an update at the next meeting on where our conversation, unless somebody else wants to talk around, I'm perfectly fine with that. Any volunteers? Obviously, unless Bill wants to.
Well, John, whatever you need.
So anyway, well, at the next meeting, we're gonna have a decision at the next meeting. All right. One thing that we have to do, and that's under item number 5, and Chris is going to have to step in on this quite a bit. In order, the proposal, and I'm assuming we can say this publicly now.
Yeah.
The proposal of the 17 acres that the Perry County Memorial Hospital owns is to deed that to the Redevelopment Commission. So we can make the decisions on it. We'll be responsible to sell the properties. We'll be responsible to do all the development on those properties. In order to do that, there's a legal, Chris and I were on the phone with Ice Miller, and there's some legal processes that we have to fulfill because we're county entities. So I'm going to let Chris kind of take that and let everyone know what we have to do.
Unfortunately, I apparently left my timetable
Here.
in the office. Got it good. Thank you. Had it ready to go. And no. So what we have to do is we have to have the property appraised by 2 independent appraisers. Those are not public appraisals, but we have to have them in our file. So we need to appoint 2 appraisers. They can be real estate agents or brokers in the county. And then we have to, if we acquire this property, we have to deed it to a 501c3 entity in order to have that entity do the actual selling of the lots. Otherwise, we would have to have each lot appraised every time we did it. It's just an administrative nightmare to do this. So we're working on identifying a viable 501c3. It's got to be a certain kind. It's just not your average, like a Little League 501c3. It's got to be a special kind. We're working on identifying that. We have to amend our economic development area. That sits in economic development area 3. We have to amend that to add this housing development as a project. So we'll start that process probably at the next meeting. This is kind of the same process we do anytime we make an amendment. So we would adopt an amending declaratory resolution to add this as a project. We would then get Plan Commission, Perry County Plan Commission, and Commissioners' approval of that. And then we have a hearing 30 days later, public notice and all that. And in June, we would approve adding this project to that area. Then we can go ahead and transfer the property over and transfer it to the 501c3. And the way you do it with the 501c3 is we have these covenants we're talking about, and deed restrictions and all that stuff is all ready to go, so that it's very ministerial for them. They just basically say, all right, here's the lots, they'll be developed, and this is the covenants we're going to have. This is the price we're going to impose upon those lots. If we have restrictions, like we'll talk about in a little bit, about you have to build within a certain period of time after purchase or something, that'll all be there in writing, so that 501c3 doesn't get in. We don't want them involved in those things. We simply want them to hold the property. We'll do all the development. They hold the property and they sell it off for us, and the money comes back to us and ultimately to the hospital to pay for the property. So that's the process. We're looking at from now to the 1st of July to get that finished, which is fine. That's not a delay. It's just
No.
Are you talking about using an existing 501c3 or forming a new?
It would be easiest to do an existing one if we can. We tentatively identified one, but I don't want to announce it yet till we've firmed up whether we can use it or not. And it'll be y'all's decision. If you choose to use that one, fine. If you don't, then we could look at forming one. Of course, the thing is, when you form one, you have to pay an attorney to do it. So, not this attorney, because I can't do this kind of 501c3. It's got to be Ice Miller or somebody, and it would be less expensive and more efficient, I think, to use an existing one if we can. So.
Not me. I'm not an attorney. I don't even try to play one. So the schedule next month, and we'll have the potential proposed amendment on our agenda for next month to approve, so we can keep that on track. Hopefully by then we've got the 501c3 identified and all the details identified, which we will have them all identified, so we can keep that process going. At the same time, we're in the process of filling out the documentation that goes to the city planning and zoning to do a rezone on this piece of property, which is now commercial, and we're going to rezone to R2, it looks like. So we're filling out that documentation. That will be going to them in May for their determination and look. At least we've already gone through part of a look through the city, and then we'll finalize that with them. We can't do a total. I don't think they're going to allow us to do a finalization until Kenny gets the wastewater or the water runoff plan completed, because they're going to want that before we can do it. And then I think we have to submit that to the state for approval. And Kenny's going to take care of all that for us. Kenny Simpson is. And I've informed him of where we are in our timetable, so he can at least have that ready for us as we file with the city. And that'll get us to the rezone part of the process. In the meantime, as we're doing all this stuff, we have filed for ready money. Hopefully we'll know that, Aaron, sooner or later, whenever they decide that's going to happen. We have a letter into to the commissioners for ARP money. We'll see how that comes back to us. If none of this works, there's a third source, and that's using some of the web wheel funds that become available there. So it's not that the project will not happen. The question is, where are we going to get funding for the project, and what's the most efficient way we can get funding? The most efficient way from a county standpoint is if we can use the READY and ARP money. And between the two of them, if we get what we're asking for, from what I've seen on our original estimates, we should be able to fund the project. Actually, maybe even overfund the project, if truth be known. So just because we're waiting doesn't mean it's not going to happen. I believe this thing, we're probably 85% chance now that this thing is going to happen in 2022, at least get pretty much finalized in 2022. Maybe we can't quite move dirt depending on contractors and such and how the bidding process has got to go. But we're there. We're there. I will say the demand, calls that I've heard, comments that I've heard, the demand is there. I think the public is very favorable to the project. So that, to me, that's all good. That's all good. Any questions about that? Randy, any questions? Ed? Huh? Well, y'all are sitting back there. I got to call on somebody.
All right, I'm going to tell you one of my, right now you're a government entity.
Yep.
Okay. And you said potentially using TIF funds.
Yep.
TIF is tax dollars.
Yep.
Tax dollars to government entities is a pretty easy thing to do. Tax dollars to a 501c3, which is not a government entity, may create some issues. It's the same thing with our ARP funds have now turned into a government 100% loss. So we're back with those things again. So, you know, my understanding, and you see this all the time when they do these projects where the redevelopment is going to sell this lot, and the requirement is to build a 2,000 square foot house that is this size, this is this, and one guy comes in and bids on it, he takes the lot and he goes. It happens all the time. And I'm not sure with the incorporating the nonprofit, creating another wheel in here, you might create yourself more problems than just going through the process, selling 17 lots in a fashion such as that. Make them biddable, and if you have two people fighting like whatever for the lot, great. You're selling a lot, and people are committing to build a home in order to buy that lot. So, something for you to consider. We can look into that. Yeah.
The point is we're figuring out how to do this, and that's good information.
Yeah, we can look
Yeah.
into that.
Yeah. Ed, you got anything you want to say yet?
No, sir.
Okay. Kelly? The crowd's pretty thin. Aaron?
My comment would be that have ready funding. It does not necessarily require that 20% public match.
Which we can do. We can do that.
Some public match.
Yeah, well, we can do that. And actually, one of the thought processes, and I don't know where the whole ARP thing stands, Randy. I have no clue. But that was one of the reasons that we asked for it, because some of this requirements through the ready, you understand that probably as well as anybody. So I don't know where it stands. I've been trying to reach out to the commissioners and the council the best that I can and let them know that this is a worthy project. So hopefully we can get somewhere with it. Anyway. All right, Bill, you're next on the agenda.
I think everyone's got a copy. Ed came in late. If you need one, Ed, I've got a.
Randy said I didn't need one of anything in it.
Yes,
Honesty is a good attribute, Ed.
I would go about and just look for some ideas, and the first 2 pages I used was just a start of a subdivision. I still own the lot there. I'm trying to sell it in Oakland City. I've had it for 40 years. And they have some good ideas, and you can look through this and read it yourself, or if you want, I can read it to you right now.
Which one are you on? You on proposed or
Well,
Forest
just on
Canton
the- Well,
Heights?
they're all proposed.
No,
What
it's
it
the-
is, that's just how I saved it on my computer.
This one
I
coming
was-
in.
not the one.
Yeah, I'm the one, the first one is the one that pretty much is how they started off the covenants with the one that I used as a sample. And Chris, I'm not an attorney, so obviously, those things, a lot of the things I typed here were from a person who was an attorney that typed these. And of course, there would be more added to the first 2 pages. And then what I did, I just listed on the last few pages some different ideas. Because on this covenant here in Oakland City, they did not allow any vinyl siding, which I thought, we talked about that, and we thought maybe, if it's the right quality, that it would be okay. So anything I got written in here does not mean it's set in stone by any stretch. And I think the more I did this, the more I realized there was always things that you can't foresee what someone might want to do with their home. You want it restrictive because you're trying to protect a person's investment. But on the other hand, you don't really want to smother people either. And there's a balance there, and how do you go about it? Like he was just talking about livestock. Okay, livestock can be anything. Okay, now pets. Okay, what kind of pets? I mean, does a person want to have a boa constrictor, crawling around their yard? There's all kinds of things. So if we go with some things that restrict types of animals you have here, of course you don't want, if we allow dogs to have one neighbor, he's got the fenced-in backyard like we're supposed to have, and he's got 12 coon dogs. I mean, to what point do you say, okay, wait a minute, we've got to draw the line somewhere?
Well, will we not, like on pets, will we not, because we live within X miles of Tell City, fall under some of their guidance, or will we
We fall
not?
under Tell City zoning
Zoning.
and county ordinances. Of course, the county has a leash law, just like the city does. So all pets have to be leashed or in an enclosed area like a fence. So you can't just let them run around. Not that people don't.
Cats?
So I'm trying to,
Oh.
as you said, try to limit what you put on paper as much you can, because
Right.
you don't want to smother people.
Yeah, that's the fine line you gotta draw.
Yeah,
Right.
I don't want to see a ton of restrictions. Some of these things are really good, but I hate to tell someone how to build their house to a certain extent. I will say, Bill, I'm just on the Forest Canton Heights proposal, and under your item number 2, down at the very bottom, cement blocks and cinder blocks may be used on the foundation and basement structure. I would like to add to that cement block and cinder blocks must be split face block or brick veneer.
If exposed.
If it's exposed, it has to be split face or brick veneer.
Good
And
point.
It's
the
valid
other
point
thing
in Tell
is
City.
An outbuilding, this right here would restrict you from not building an outbuilding of a concrete block building. It has to be.
You
similar.
can do it out of split face block, though. It's totally different product.
Okay, it's okay to have the outbuilding and back split face, even though the house, because I think we talked earlier about having the structure similar to the house, is that correct?
That was one of the ideas that came up, yes.
Right. Which I thought some of that kind of addressed that in
You
here.
did. He did
It,
address
that
It is in-
that it would match.
You
So-
addressed that on the second page. You're not going to build a brick home and then back a
A cinder block building
A
next
cinder-
to it.
or a-
outbuilding.
a trailer,
Right.
and use that for your outbuilding. You've
Or
addressed
in
that.
those ones that you can just bring in and assemble. We want it to be a frame type
Yeah.
building too.
You want it to match the house.
Yes, it's gotta be a frame. That's
It's
not-
permanent structure,
Mhm.
It says that.
not up on skids.
Right.
Yeah, so like a yard barn.
Yeah, no yard barns.
Some other issues, that as I went through this, I've just seen that issues here in town, you drive through town and, what can you park on the street? Can you park a motorhome there and keep it? A trailer, I see some people have trailers parked on the side of the street. And I guess I'm more noticing that since I've been doing this, and I'm just thinking, what do we want to require? Of course, it's okay to park a trailer there for a day or two if you're getting ready to do
As
some
long as
stuff.
it's licensed.
But, yeah, it's licensed, but is that where you want to leave it permanently?
How wide are
Which-
your roads in that subdivision? Will they accommodate it?
They'll accommodate it.
Yeah.
Maybe
But-
you shouldn't make them that wide. And that way they have to get them off the street.
Well,
I'm not trying.
no, I agree, Randy.
The Tell City has went through this, and I've heard this conversation for years. We've got big wide roads. They're expensive to take care of also. And what we're doing is providing parking for people that should provide parking on their own property. And that's been a discussion
Well,
for years here in town.
If I'm not mistaken, didn't the city of Tell City just go through this with a trailer ordinance?
They did, but who enforces it?
That's a whole nother story.
So, it's the next question when you do make these covenants, what's gonna be your mechanism and what's the penalties if I'm a bad boy? These are the whole things that, it's really, who wants to be their mother?
I don't know if I put that in here, the one that, here, they developed a board of
Yeah,
homeowners. I don't know if you wanna go to that point or not.
Yeah, there's two ways to do this. You can have a homeowners association, which is all kinds of issues, homeowners associations, or
The width on
you
those
just
streets.
give every landowner in the subdivision the right to enforce these covenants, and they get attorney
30 and
fees
50.
if they
Oh,
win.
30 foot
So
roadway, 50 foot
if you own a
roadway.
lot and David owns a lot and he does something in a violation, you can take him to court, and that's a more effective way, I think, to do it. You don't have to pay homeowners fees and all that. One other point Kelly was pointing out to me, and she's right, our hope is these would be county roads. I don't know that we can really restrict what somebody does on a county road without the county doing it. So if we wanted a no trailer ordinance or something, we might have to ask the county to do that.
Yeah.
Not that they wouldn't do it.
I'm afraid, and maybe I'm speaking out of turn, but I'm afraid, I don't want to smother people with this. This is an opportunity to create rules that are going to, I agree with the building the homes a certain way, but when we start telling them how to live, think that's way beyond what we should be
Well,
doing.
that's what I noticed, Tony, when I was doing this, you know, at what point do you, these are just recommendations, these
Yeah.
are not actual. The first 2 pages came out of the
Existing one,
subdivision that's
yeah.
been developed, and it's kind of fallen off over the past 30, 40 years. I mean, it's still nice, there's still nice homes in there, but when I did this, I knew there's
Now,
some
how
things
far do
that
you take this?
we've got to discuss this, and, you know,
Yes.
You know, I've seen as little as Tony is saying it's a minimum so many square feet on the first floor, constructed, stick-built, sided or brick, outbuildings of a similar nature, and you're done. I've seen it that simple, and then I've seen it so complex that nobody's ever going to build a house in it.
Simple is better.
Well, the one thing I noticed on the second page on the proposed, it says paved or concrete. In this subdivision, I would probably say concrete. I think number one, it looks nicer, and number two, you don't have, they're going to have to be concreted and not gravelled.
Driveways.
Driveways, yes. And you're not talking about a whole lot there because they're going to be relatively short anyway. Answer your question, Randy. He's got it proposed right now at about 30 feet on the roads, on the streets. Yep, yep. Carol had to see that. I couldn't see that.
Well, see, that's a little on the narrow side if you allow
Yep.
parking on both sides.
Yep.
And you might get by with one.
also, John, that road, I don't know if you've got that written down, I don't have a copy of the minutes, that road in front, you and I, when I talked to Steve Howe,
Yeah,
we didn't know who owned it.
we know now.
Steve said the county doesn't own it.
He's right.
And so, as we went through this, I'm thinking, well, who does own it?
You do, if you buy this property.
Right now, the hospital owns it.
Okay, so that's a common road, the county doesn't own it. Is that road, of course, during construction, it's not that important, because I drove down there, and it's a little rough.
Pretty rough shape, yeah.
But, once the houses are all built, whose road is it then?
Well, we hope the county's.
Yeah, the proposal would be that, as I understand what you guys are thinking is, once the road gets to the point where it's not going to have heavy traffic all over it, you put the final paving on it to county specs, and the county takes it over.
That's the plan.
That's the plan.
Okay.
That's what happened at the Highlands. That's what's happened out at Acres. Yeah.
Yeah, and they finally got to doing that. For years, people lived there 10 or 15 years, and it was gravel, but I think they've now gotten around to,
You want to wait to put the final coat on so you don't have heavy cement trucks and all
Yeah.
tearing it up in the summer.
We actually just found that out. We just found that out here when Bill inquired. I just always assumed it was a county road because when you look at the map, it's got a county name on it.
It was vacated several years ago.
Yep, 2017, I think.
It's county for about the first 15 feet or something like that, and then it's private after that.
and the rest of these things are just for suggestions. I'm like John, the driveway, I think, should be concrete. As far as the outsiding, I don't have any problem with vinyl siding. As long as it looks nice and high quality. And again, we're going to be very general on a lot of things that we put down here. You're not going to avoid every single thing.
No.
I think the pet restrictions, we're going to have to word that somehow. And I'm not really sure, Chris would be probably doing, I don't know, Chris would be doing the covenants.
I can do it once you get.
No, I don't mind
tell me
doing
what's
it
in.
once we get it, but
No,
we're
yeah.
going to have to define pets.
I'll put them in legal form once you tell me what to put. I can put them in legal form.
Do you restrict it to domesticated type pets?
Well,
Pet skunk?
Nothing surprises me anymore, okay? Some people have pet raccoons.
Chickens.
Yeah,
Chickens
chickens
big
are,
now.
Chickens?
yes.
As long as they don't crow.
You have to remember at one time right down the street they had lions and tigers too. So
Yes, this is true.
Chris,
Anyway.
can I ask you a question? Is that okay?
no,
This grass, the one talking about the grass, unsightly weeds and grass, does that not fall under, like Steve Goodson with the grass ordinances?
We
Is
have-
this within two?
We have a weed
miles?
ordinance in the county, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't have to have that then, because that would fall under the grass.
Yeah, I was answering
during the
two-
season, yeah.
Curtains are-
That was two questions.
Curtains are Venetian.
Well, I
blinds.
didn't know if, since he has the.
Some
I mean,
housing
he
developments
actually
have really
is the
restricted.
Building inspector for
Yes.
this,
Oh, yeah.
correct, because it's within 2 miles, so would he
If
not
it can be seen
also-
from the front.
Only
It's all a tree.
if the weed control is in the
Also
ordinance,
grow.
he can, in the zoning ordinance, he can enforce it. If it's in the Tell City ordinance, he can't. But we have the county ordinance, is basically the
Okay,
same. So
okay.
you're right, it can be
In our
enforced.
animal ordinance, doesn't it get?
I send a letter out a couple times a year to
About
landowners in
pets?
the county.
Yeah, I think a lot of this stuff will be
The
covered.
animal- The animal ordinance, I think.
Yeah, well,
also
what you would
take
want to
care
do
of-
is decide if you want to allow horse, not that you can have a horse on a 3rd-acre lot, but chickens are,
No domesticated livestock, period. That solved it.
is it chicken or livestock?
Yeah, it is.
It is
Poultry
considered
is.
poultry, yeah.
I didn't know that.
If you look at the definition of livestock, poultry is part of that.
Well, maybe they could turn that center lot into a communal farm.
Petting zoo.
It's your turn to pick the eggs.
Yeah.
A swimming pool, that's another one. I mean, do we want an above ground pool, or, you know, some people get those and they look really nice, others, you see people put them out and
Depends on
they
what
have,
it is.
they have to get a ladder to hop in them.
God, that's tough.
Personally,
and I
I
know
kind of
where
like
you're
the way
going with
that you
that.
wrote it, but I understand the other side of it too.
Right. Because there are those inflatable ones people get for their kids, and it's like up for 2 months during the summer, and then it comes down and it goes away.
Somebody's up all winter.
Right.
Until it freezes.
Yeah.
Does the Highlands have covenants like these? Yeah, anybody know? Yes. Are they very restrictive or what are they?
No, and that was probably,
I
good
mean, that
question.
development to me looks decent
Mhm.
last time I was
The,
out there.
we could pull theirs.
I mean,
kind of look at those.
I just think that, and measure the width of their streets, maybe you wanna go to 24 feet. The county'd be much more interested in paving 24 than 30, I'm sure.
I'll pull
I mean,
them
that
out.
might address your.
Yeah, I like to look at both of those.
I'd like to
If
see
I
'em.
could, if you had- if you had both of them.
On both
One of
sides.
the problems
Right.
we had, the original covenants out there were really restrictive,
This came from this boat.
and nobody built out there. They were really, really restrictive, so when Hastings came in, they did loosen up the covenants.
I mean, I think the whole key is to have something that's in place so the neighborhood doesn't fall apart. That fair? But not so much that people can't do what they want to do.
They won't build them.
I think if you have a certain square footage requirement, you're going to lift it above anybody that might be putting a shack in. Because if you do that, you know, you're gonna have the means to secure a loan to build that size.
And I agree, and as well as, you know, the pole barn, that kind of thing, if that's restricted away, then you're right. You're gonna have to,
And most people that make that type of investment wanna take care of it.
right.
There's a certain sense of pride.
Not gonna have a problem with that.
Let me pull the Highlands and send it around to all you guys.
You have
can take a
tips
look
all,
at it.
you have tips all as well?
I'll pull them all and get them to you guys for,
Okay.
to look at, and talk about next meeting.
And Christmas decorations, I thought that was, or how, you know, how long do you leave your Christmas decorations? Do you wanna go there, or do you just wanna let people leave the Christmas?
I will tell you,
tree
I
up?
don't personally want to go there.
You don't wanna go there?
No.
Well, okay, if
How
we don't
come?
wanna go there,
Use
you
it
mean
all year?
somebody should just be allowed to leave their decorations up here?
Well, somebody taught me one time the neighbors will take care of the neighbors sometimes.
Okay, all right, well,
Is that fair? And who would enforce it?
Neighbors.
Yeah, exactly right. And I don't think I've never seen that really as a problem. I mean, maybe they leave the lights on, but
so that one is gonna be one that John just kinda, we don't even wanna go there.
wasn't real excited about that one, Bill, no.
I'd like to know you.
Chris, just for reference, you know, we've talked about the pet ordinances in the county, the weed control.
Yes.
Can you get copies of those to us too, so we can just get our head around what all is included?
And Chris, the jurisdiction, would it be Steve Goodson or would it be Junie Bogus enforcing those things?
Well, if the restriction is in the zoning code, it would be Tell City zoning code that applies.
Because it's in the 2-mile radius.
That's right. If it's an ordinance though, that is a county ordinance, because 2-mile jurisdiction is only for zoning purposes. So, for example, if Tell City has a weed ordinance and the county doesn't, that's not what it is, but if that was the case, Tell City can't enforce the weed ordinance out there. But if there's something in the zoning code that says you can't have weeds 3 feet tall, then he can enforce that.
And I know the zoning code does approach some of those things.
It does cover some things.
Yeah. But it's not excessively restrictive either, which it shouldn't be in some regards. Any other
Frankly, for
thoughts?
our purposes, the only pet ordinance applicability would be the dogs have to be leashed probably. But I'll look and see if there's other things.
And I think in the city, livestock, if I'm not mistaken.
Probably.
But we're not in the city, so I don't know if that would apply.
I mean, again, it's a question that's not enforced because there's a lot of chickens on that.
Right.
Yeah.
Can't imagine my boat retired.
This might be the toughest part of this whole thing, just so you know.
The pets?
No, this whole,
Oh, this?
getting this
Yes.
all figured out.
Yeah.
Because I do agree, it should be, people have to be comfortable there and people have different lifestyles, but it's also maintaining that neighborhood, that community, making a desirable place to live.
What does Barkhamsted have? I mean, do they have one of these?
They did.
Yeah, they do.
Because I mean, they seem, you know,
There
like they're
was
also
one.
in order, it seems like.
I'll see where
I
there's.
don't even know that that's still even enforced anymore. That was back when Ralph Reed owned it.
I mean,
Yeah, it
when you
should
buy
be
a lot,
clean.
does that come with it? 'Cause,
I think those
I know,
are
like-
in the deed, aren't they?
yeah.
But really never had an
Trash
issue there, did?
compactor.
Nobody really had an issue over there, did they?
Pardon?
Nobody really had any issues, did they?
No.
Yeah.
I know you had one here
Which
about,
may go to Randy's point. I mean, if you're gonna spend the kind of money,
That's what
you're
I just want some.
not gonna have that, shouldn't have that issue.
you had something here about signs.
I think there was
Mhm.
things
I
about
just-
outbuildings, but I think people started.
You know, wondering when like
Makes sense.
Randy runs for office, he could put signs out there, political signs.
That's called a temporary sign, though.
You're talking
And I
about,
think that's actually in the zoning
you're
code.
talking about business signs, right?
Yeah, the business sign
But it's not
discussion.
allowed.
You know, the other
Well,
thing that
that's-
I
what
did
do-
like,
What do we want to do with that?
I did like the business
think so.
sign restrictions.
yeah. and the
I,
business restriction.
So like
yes.
If I had a tax service, could I put a sign out that said, I mean, that's what we
Yeah,
have
the
to
way this is
decide.
written, then no.
Okay.
And I would lean toward no on that.
I mean, they could have their own home office
Mhm.
inside, but
Exactly.
how, to what extent do you want to?
I'm thinking Tell City restricts that also. in
They do.
residential areas.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like
You have to get
the
an
yard
exception.
signs has a specific period of time, if I'm not mistaken.
Mhm. They do.
But it's like if you're running a single-person tax service, you're not, in a residential area, you're not allowed to put a sign out.
Right.
Without some type of a waiver.
You have to get a condition of use or a variance one of the two, depends on where it is.
There's some kind of sign restriction on Upper 14th, like where Flanagan, I think was, do you know what I'm talking about? We were looking at a property there and the deed came with restrictions and there was something about signs in particular, so you may want to check that.
Are you talking about scenic heights?
I don't know what it's called, it was
What
where
part?
Kelly Moore used to live or
Yeah.
Karen Warner. That,
It
we
was
were
on
looking at that.
on the deed.
Yeah,
Okay.
because the realtor gave it to us and I was like, oh, you know, because there were some other things on there. So I don't know. You may want to look at that. It said signs in particular, something about signs.
I can pull some of these and get them to you guys and you can,
We can shuffle through them.
Mull it over and come to an agreement and be done with it.
yeah.
Yep.
John, if I get those, I could come up with a little bit more concrete list and then send it back.
It'd be fine.
And then,
I'm good with that, Bill.
But when you're looking at like the Highlands and Barkhamsted, both of which are getting fully built out or fully built out, obviously they weren't too restrictive.
Right.
Uh,
I mean, we want to encourage, but but they say encourage it, but we want to protect it also. So we want to protect people's investment, but we want to encourage is the building. And I think that's the fine line. So we'll get that put together. Bill will reshuffle through this, and then we'll have hopefully more at the next meeting, Bill?
sure.
Okay.
This is a great first attempt. I appreciate the time you took to do this.
What about during construction?
Which kind?
During construction, say you've got 6 houses out there and builder comes in to build a house and, you know, he's parked in front of the neighbor's house and
It's got a construction trailer
trailer
right there.
trailer sitting there and.
Can I use this word common courtesy?
Good luck with
Okay.
that.
I thought I'd try anyway.
Well, as long as they're making progress. I mean, you know, if they leave it there for 3 months and
But if it's every day, I can see where it'd be
And
annoying.
there's a difference between someone actually parking it out there.
To Ed's point, what he's worried about is the guy who has his house built, and we have a lot in between. Now the plumber, the heat and air conditioning guy, the
Yep.
electrician, carpenter's there, you know, how many pickups, how many trailers, how many things. And it'll get right in front of the guy who's trying to live with his family, and a lot of them bring the trailers and drop them. So, it won't be initially, it'll be when you got.
So maybe that's something where we can have something kind of on a temporary basis.
Or we
some
set a
way to
lot
address
aside
that,
for
so,
construction.
Yeah.
you know, common courtesy would
Which,
be nice.
that center one,
How do
we
you
had talked
address
about doing.
tradespeople?
It's a fair point, but how do you?
We
where do you
set,
put it
we
in?
set a lot aside for construction.
What do you do with
Vehicles.
that middle lot?
Right now, we got set aside for
There
construction.
you go.
There you go.
That's literally
That's
at
the
this
last
point.
lot.
It's the last. That's the last planned build out spot. And actually, it looks like there may end up being another lot, which is actually lot 21, down on the corner. That actually may not end up being a lot because we may have to use that for water control. Which we wouldn't be using much, all of it, but that would be another space that we could say, okay, if you guys are doing this, there's your spot. Sorry, you got to walk a little bit, but you know,
They can always pull in and load their equipment,
Yep.
park their vehicle.
but don't sit in front of my house all day, kind of a deal. Yeah. But when I talked to Kenny about the water runoff, it looks like we may have to end up putting a dry dam or dry dam in that space just to control the runoff.
That's right there at the corner of Minnesota.
It's right down at the corner, and it's actually, when you look at the elevation, it kind of falls off on the backside pretty hard anyway. Although it'd still be a nice lot, but I think we may have to utilize that for that. That which should allow us to pick up a couple of lots in that middle space also, if we needed to.
So with that said, how are you going to address the maintenance issue on that?
It's a good question, and I don't know the answer.
Yeah, that's a really good.
I'm not going to mow it every week, Randy. I can tell you that. I got too much to do. Maybe we'll send Lisa up there.
Great question, because that's why you have homeowners associations.
Yeah.
When you have common roads and common ground, you have to have somebody to take care of it. That's why you have to have those silly things.
But I can tell you we'll figure it out. No comment, Randy? Maybe it'll be a forest. I don't know.
Full trees.
You
Huh?
said vinyl siding, right? Or, I mean, what about they make that nice wood, you know, I don't know if it's wood or what is that they use, it's real wide, that they put on those farmhouses sometimes, the white, you know what I'm talking about? It's not metal, I mean, they do that too, but.
The concrete, they make a concrete board.
It's kind of like a
It looks
concrete
like
kind of,
rough
yeah.
cut wood, and then they put little strips in there
I
between.
mean, it looks nice, but
A style of house, I can't.
I don't know. If you say vinyl only,
Well, what
No,
about?
he's not saying
you know, a lot
vinyl
of these-
only.
Okay.
Some of these places, they have these, they're nice homes, they got log cabins and they use
Why do we
chinking.
care?
You know, they chink all of that in. Is that what you're talking about? I mean, do we want
Stick
to
built, I
allow,
don't care.
I mean, some of those homes are beautiful. And if you say log cabin, what if someone,
To me, if it's a stick-built house, whatever you say, 1,800 feet on the first floor. they
I
want a
think
nice
that will
log
protect, cover a lot of stuff?
cabin. What the heck?
Yeah, I don't want to restrict anybody on that stuff other than the exposed block on the foundation because it makes a difference on how a home looks in a neighborhood. And there's a couple places in Tell City you can see every home like that. So we need to stick with that. Well, if you send us all that, we can surely knock this out
Yep.
I would think
Next
so.
meeting or so.
next meeting. Set it and forget it. And maybe somebody from the public will come and give more input.
Yeah, if anybody has comments,
We'll make the
you're always free to send them on. We'll look at them. The
Get you that tomorrow or next year.
yeah, the last item I've received 2 invoices. One's from Baker Tilly, and that was on some calculations and stuff they did from a circuit breaker standpoint for $1,800. And then there's an invoice for $2,640, which was from Kenny for some work that he did since he invoiced us on the last time. So I'd like to put them in the meeting and look for a motion to approve those.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
First, second, any other conversations, discussions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
Those will have to be advertised,
I was gonna say, I
so
think
Yeah.
Yeah.
we'll get that appropriated at the next meeting.
That's fine.
From the courthouse.
Yep, that's what come from the courthouse too.
Now, the Simpson may be already appropriated.
It is,
Okay.
it is. She has that, and I,
Tilly one.
yeah.
Okay.
And then, yeah, now, Pam said she already had that one completed, so it'd be the Baker Tilly one. Any other comments?
Is there any update on the hotel, or do you guys have anything to do?
We have nothing to do with the hotel.
Okay.
All we're dealing with is the apartment complex. Apartment complex, there's no update on Wapaka site, there's none of that at this point in the game.
Thank you.
All right, so I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
We got a motion.
Bill said it.
Okay, we're good. Adjournment.
Are we looking at the 25th for the next meeting?
Yeah.
When is it?
The 25th.